The air was full of smoke, ash, and distant screams. The human soldier, Jack, stepped carefully through the ruins of the alien village, his rifle raised and eyes sharp. He wasn't supposed to be here alone. But the distress beacon had been strong, and command was too slow to act, so he had come himself. Everything around him was broken. Homes crushed under fallen trees, walls melted by energy blasts, and no movement, except one. He heard a soft whimper, almost like a cry, buried under debris. Jack rushed toward the sound. Pushing aside metal and cracked stone, there curled. Up inside a shattered food storage unit was a small alien girl. Her skin was a soft shade of violet, glowing faintly even under the dust. Her eyes, big and golden, looked up at him in terror. She didn't scream, just stared. Trembling, Jack knelt down and spoke gently. "Hey, it's okay. I'm human, but I won't hurt you." The girl didn't move, just hugged her knees tighter. Jack slowly extended his hand, palm open, no weapon. After a moment, she reached out and touched its small fingers, brushing his. He picked her up carefully. Wrapping his jacket around her, she weighed almost nothing, and she didn't say a word. Not until they reached the evac shuttle he'd called in. As they waited, he shared a ration bar with her. She nibbled quietly, eyes never leaving his face. "What's your name?" he asked. She answered in a whisper, "Lyra." "Pretty name," Jack said with a smile. "How old are you?" She held up 7 fingers. Jack chuckled, trying to lift the mood. 7. That's a good age, Lyra. You know, when you grow up, I might just marry you." It was meant as a joke, something silly to make her smile. And for the first time, she did a soft, tiny smile that barely lifted her cheeks, but it was there. But Lyra wasn't joking. Her people had strong memories and even stronger bonds. A promise made, especially during hardship, was sacred. The shuttle landed with a loud hum, sending dust into the air. Jack handed Lyra over to the medics. "Take care of her," he said. Brushing a lock of hair from her face, she clung to his sleeve, refusing to let go. "I'll come back," Jack promised, trying to pull her hand away gently. She didn't speak, but her eyes said everything. He reached into his pouch and pulled out a small trinquita charm carved from old earth wood. "Here," he said, placing it in her palm. "Hold on to this, okay?" She nodded, slowly letting go. Jack watched as the shuttle door closed between them. He stood there, alone, as the ship rose and vanished into the clouds. He never expected to see her again. Years passed, and the war ended. Jack left the army and disappeared to a quiet life on a distant outpost. He never forgot Lyra, but he thought she had forgotten him, that moment in the ruins. Just a footnote in a chaotic life, but far away, across the stars, Lyra was growing. The charm never left her hand, not once, and the promise. It never faded from her heart. One day she would find him again. One day she would return, not as a scared girl, but as a woman ready to claim what was promised. And Jack, he had no idea what was coming. The rain fell in thick sheets as Jack sat by the fire, sipping a cup of recycled coffee in his small outpost cabin on planet Elaraine. He had spent the last 5 years in quiet, away from the noise of galactic politics and war. He liked it that way, alone, peaceful, forgotten. The knock came at night, sharp and sudden, echoing through the silence like a weapon drawn in the dark. Jack stood up, alert, grabbing his old sidearm before moving toward the door. No one ever came here, not without reason. He opened the door slowly, weapon half raised, and froze. She stood there, soaked in rain, tall and elegant. Her dark robe clung to her body, revealing glimpses of violet skin and glowing tattoos that shimmered faintly. Her golden eyes locked onto his. But they weren't scared like before. They were determined. Jack's mouth opened, then closed again. "The gun lowered on its own, Lyra." She She nodded once, the motion calm and controlled. "You made a promise," she said softly, water dripping from her hair to the dusty floor. "I've come to collect." Jack stepped aside without a word. Mind spinning, heart pounding, she stepped in. Her footsteps light, almost regal, but there was something more in her eyes, something troubled. He handed her a towel, not knowing what else to do. "How did you find me?" he asked finally. "I never stopped looking," she said simply, wrapping the towel around her shoulders. Her voice was deeper now, but still held the softness he remembered from that broken village. Jack leaned against the table, still staring at her. "That was years ago. I didn't think you'd actually remember. It was just a joke." Her head tilted slightly. "Not to me," she said. "Your words saved me when everything else was falling apart." He looked away, uncomfortable. "You were a child. I'm not anymore," Lyra replied, her voice firmer. "And I came because I need you, not just for a promise." Jack frowned. "What's wrong?" There was a long pause, and then she stepped closer. Close enough for him to see a faint bruise on her neck. Her robe shifted, revealing a small symbol marked into her skin, something ceremonial. "I was chosen to be bonded to a warlord," she said quietly. "A political marriage. He's dangerous, violent. I escaped." Jack's stomach turned. "And now they're hunting you." She nodded again. "But if I'm already bonded to someone else, they can't force me." Jack's eyes widened. "You want me to marry you? Right now?" "No," she said calmly. "I want you to protect me, like you did once before. And yes, maybe the only way is through that old promise." The fire crackled. In the silence between them, Jack rubbed his face, confused, tired, uncertain. "This isn't how I imagined my evening going," he muttered. "I didn't imagine I'd be running for my life again either," she replied, eyes softer now. "But I came because I knew. I believed you'd keep your word." Jack looked at her long and hard, trying to see the scared little girl beneath the graceful alien woman in front of him. But she was gone, replaced by someone stronger, braver, and still holding on to the same small hope. He finally nodded. Slowly, "You can stay here, but I need time to figure this out." "You have until they find me," she said quietly, turning toward the small guest room without waiting for more. "Then time runs out." Jack stood alone as the fire flickered and the door clicked shut behind her. Outside, the storm howled louder, and somewhere far across the stars, others were already tracking her scent. She was here, and danger was coming with her, and Jack. He wasn't sure if he was ready for any of it, but he couldn't walk away again. Not from her, not this time. The next morning came with eerie silence. Not even the birds dared to sing. Jack stood by the window, watching the clouds shift over the valley. His cabin was small, surrounded by thick forest and mountains, perfect place to hide or to be trapped. He hadn't slept, not even a minute. Lyra's sudden return had twisted his thoughts into knots. She hadn't come back as a child full of dreams. She had returned as a woman running from power, danger, and maybe worse. Jack turned when he heard soft footsteps. Lyra stepped into the room, her robe replaced by a loose gray shirt and cargo pants from his old storage box. She looked different, still alien, but somehow more human now. "I made tea," she said quietly, offering him a steaming cup. He took it without a word. "Thanks," he said, staring into the cup like it held answers. "I scanned the area last night," she said calmly. 3 ships entered orbit, unmarked, military class. They're here for me." Jack looked up sharply. "Already?" She nodded. "They won't attack yet. They'll watch first. Wait. Confirm if I'm alone." Jack set the tea down. "Then we need to act fast. If they find us here, they'll take me," she finished for him, "and kill you." Jack rubbed his face. "Great. Just great. I have a plan," she said, her voice steady. "But you won't like it. Jack raised an eyebrow. Of course not. Let's hear it. We need to make it public, she said. You and me married under bond law. If I'm officially your mate, their laws forbid interference unless war is declared. Jack stared at her. You want me to go public with this? With you? She nodded. There's a nearby relay station, old but functional. Send a declaration. A marriage contract, time-stamped and signed. You're serious, he said, almost laughing. She stepped closer, deadly. He looked into her eyes and saw no hesitation, no fear, only determination. I don't even know if I still believe in that promise, he said honestly. She leaned closer, her voice soft but fierce. But I do. That stopped him. Moments later, Jack was packing a bag, weapons, power cells, and a small transmitter. Lyra checked the perimeter sensors, every move calculated and swift. She wasn't just a runaway. She had training, probably military, maybe royal guards. Where did you learn to do all this? He asked as they moved through the forest. I learned everything I could to find you. She replied simply. The old relay tower stood crooked and rusted. Hidden in the trees, Jack booted up the terminal while Lyra sealed the doors. They uploaded the contract, signed it digitally, and broadcast it on both human and alien diplomatic frequencies. It was done. Jack leaned back in the chair, breathing hard. So now what? We wait. No, she said, looking out the cracked window. Now we run, because they won't accept this quietly. And sure enough, high above the clouds, a ship changed direction. A predator had spotted its prey, but this time, she wasn't alone, and the man beside her had once made a promise in innocence. Now, he might just have to keep it in blood. The silence of the forest shattered with the deep roar of engines overhead. Trees bent under the pressure as a sleek black dropship sliced through the sky. Jack and Lyra barely had time to duck behind the old relay tower before the ground shook. With the landing, dust, and dry leaves scattered, Jack peeked around the edge, spotting armored figures disembarking. No flags. No symbols, just polished black armor and laser rifles. They're not here to talk, Jack muttered. No, Lyra said. Already powering up a handheld energy shield, they're here to erase. Me before the bond spreads through the networks, Jack pulled out his rifle, checking the charge. What kind of empire wants you dead over a marriage? Lyra gave a bitter smile. One built on control. If I choose my own mate, it breaks centuries of royal control. They'll kill me to keep others from following. The enemy soldiers fanned out, moving silently through the trees, coordinated. And fast. Jack motioned to the west ridge. We can flank through there. If we move now, Lyra nodded. They sprinted low and silent, weaving between trees and fallen branches. Jack's mind flashed back to old Missions X this time. He wasn't saving a planet. He was saving one person who somehow mattered more. They reached a small ravine and slid down into the shadows. Voices echoed nearby deep, mechanical, filtered through helmets. I'll distract them, Jack whispered. You keep going. No, Lyra said firmly. Grabbing his arm, we're bonded now. If they kill you, they can undo it. Jack blinked. They didn't mention that in the contract? They wouldn't, she replied, eyes narrowing. They assume you'll run. Most humans do. Jack looked up the hill where soldiers were spreading out. Then back at her. Then it's good, I'm not most humans. Suddenly, a stun blast hit a tree behind them, sizzling bark and lighting up the shadows. They were spotted. Run! Jack shouted, firing blindly over the ridge. They raced through thick brush. Blaster fire tearing into trees around them. A bolt grazed Jack's shoulder, burning through the jacket but not breaking skin. They reached a narrow cave entrance near the cliffs. Lyra ducked in first, Jack right behind her. Rocks collapsed at the mouth behind them, sealing them in. Darkness wrapped around them like a blanket. Only the soft blue glow of Lyra's eyes visible. We can't keep running, she said breathlessly. They won't stop. Not until one of us dies. Jack leaned against the wall, panting. Then maybe it's time we stop hiding. She turned toward him. You have a plan. He nodded slowly. Yeah, but it's going to require something you might hate. Lyra waited, silent. We go to your homeworld, Jack said. We show them I'm not afraid of your throne. We make this union public, real, and undeniable. She stared at him. You'd walk into the heart of my enemy's empire, just for me. Jack met her eyes. I didn't come this far to break a promise, now. For a moment, neither spoke. Then she reached out and took his hand. And for the first time since she arrived, she smiled, not like a scared girl, but like someone who had hope again above them. The soldiers kept searching, but underground. A new plan had begun, and Jack, the human who once made a joke to a child, was about to challenge an empire with nothing but his word and his will. The stolen cargo ship shuddered as it exited hyperspace. Jack gripped the console tightly while Lyra adjusted the trajectory. Her hands moved fast across the alien controls. Her eyes focused. They had taken the ship from one of the search squads. Hunting her silent takedown, no witnesses. Now, they were flying straight into the lion's mouth. Lyra's homeworld, a place Jack never thought he'd see, let alone enter as an outlaw, maybe a husband. The planet below was massive. Its surface glowing with violet forests and shimmering crystal cities. Floating towers drifted above the land like silent giants, surrounded by airships and drones. But beneath the beauty lay cold laws, brutal politics, and a royal court that would kill to stay in power. As they descended, Jack couldn't help but ask, are we really doing this? Lyra looked over, her voice calm but firm. We have to, if we show the bond here, in front of the ancestral mirror. No one can deny it, not even the warlord. Jack shook his head, and if they do anyway? She turned her gaze forward. Then, we fight together. They landed on the outskirts of the ancient capital where traditions were stronger than guns. Lyra led Jack through hidden paths, old tunnels beneath the city, avoiding guards and sensors. She seemed to know every turn, every whisper in the shadows. At last, they stood before the Mirror of Oaths, an ancient glowing structure embedded in crystal walls. It was silent and alive at the same time, pulsing gently with energy. This is where sacred bonds are made. Lyra whispered, once the mirror accepts us, our bond becomes part of the law. Not even the high circle can erase it. Jack stepped forward, uncertain. The mirror seemed to react, glowing warmer. Place your hand beside mine, she said, holding hers out to the surface. He did. And the mirror shimmered like liquid light, waves of warmth flowing through his arm. Images began to flash, memories of when they first met. The charm he gave her silent smile. It was like the mirror had reached into time and pulled the truth from their souls. Then it glowed white, blinding. It's brilliant. Final, the bond was accepted. But the silence that followed didn't last. Alarms echoed through the halls. A heavy metallic voice rang out through speakers. Unauthorized human detected. Royal candidate has violated Protocol 7. Lyra grabbed Jack's hand. They found us. We need to get to the open court, now. They ran through the crystal corridors as security drones began to drop from the ceiling. Jack fired back, covering Lyra as she led the way. They burst through the final gate and into the grand hall of the high circle. Dozens of alien nobles turned in shock. Gasps filled the room, whispers spreading like fire. Lyra stepped forward, voice ringing clear. The bond has been sealed by the mirror. I stand here, under sacred right. The warlord stepped down from the throne platform, massive, armored, burning with rage. You would choose this human over me. He growled. Lyra stood tall. I already did. Jack raised his weapon, but the warlord laughed. You think this earth creature scares me? A voice cut through the room mold. Female, powerful. The mirror has spoken. Said the High Matron, the law cannot be broken. The warlord's face twisted, but he couldn't strike, not here, not now. His fury would have to wait, but Jack knew this wasn't the end. Only a pause. He had married into a storm, and the real battle was yet to come. Lyra looked at him, eyes steady. "You're mine now, human," she whispered. Jack smirked. "I was yours the day I made that stupid promise." And above them, the old mirror continued to glow. A joke had become law. A memory had become war. And love had just begun its fight. The palace gates closed behind them with a deep metallic echo. But Jack didn't feel safe. Not for a second. Guards lined the crystal halls, their weapons holstered, their eyes cold. The law had been forced to accept the bond, but hearts hadn't. Lyra walked beside him with her head high. But Jack could feel the tension in her shoulders. She was surrounded by her own people, yet more alone than ever. They were given a private chamber in the guest wing grand, filled with strange glowing plants and walls that hummed with soft energy, but Jack knew what it really was. A cage wrapped in silk. He sat on the edge of the wide alien bed, wiping the dust from his boots. So, what happens now? Lyra was quiet for a moment, removing her ceremonial wrap and letting it fall to the floor. "They'll wait. Watch us. Test our bond. Some might try to challenge it with traps or lies." Jack scoffed. "Sounds like a honeymoon in hell." She gave a soft smile but didn't laugh. Instead, she walked to him slowly, standing close. "They'll look for weakness. They'll try to divide us." Jack stood up to face her. "Let them try." Suddenly, the lights in the room shifted to red. A mechanical voice filled the air. Challenge declared, ritual combat authorized. "What the hell does that mean?" Jack asked, already reaching for his weapon. Lyra's expression darkened. "It means the warlord found a loophole. He can't kill you directly, but he can challenge your right. If you lose the duel, the bond breaks." "And I go back to him." Jack laughed dryly. "Of course it's a duel. Why wouldn't it be?" "You don't have to do this," Lyra said, almost pleading. "We can run again, disappear off the grid." Jack shook his head. "No. If we run now, we run forever." That night, the courtyard was filled with silent watchers. The stars above were hidden behind violet storm clouds, torches casting long shadows across the stone floor. The warlord entered in full ceremonial armor. Glowing with ancient symbols and weapons forged for 100 battles, he towered over everyone, muscles like metal cables, eyes locked on Jack. Jack walked in with no armor, no glowing suit, just a human combat vest and an old blade given to him by Lyra herself. "You are unworthy," the warlord spat. "You are weak." Jack rolled his shoulders. "Yeah, but I'm stubborn." The gong rang. The fight began. Jack ducked as the warlord's massive strike smashed the ground. Stone cracking under the force, he rolled to the side, slashing upward with speed, not strength. Lyra watched from the balcony, fists clenched. Her fate danced with every movement Jack made. The warlord roared, striking again and again. But Jack was faster, smarter. He didn't try to match strength, he used timing, weakness, rhythm. Every soldier in the galaxy had taught him something. Now, it all came down to this. A final charge. Jack waited, then slipped to the side, driving his blade into the warlord's side, not deep but enough. The warlord stumbled. Jack didn't hesitate. He tackled him forward, using his weight and momentum to bring the giant crashing down. The gong rang again. Silence fell. Jack stood. Bruised and bleeding, the warlord lay defeated. The crowd didn't cheer, but they bowed their heads. The law had been honored. The bond was stronger, now sealed by blood. Not just words. Jack looked up at Lyra. She was smiling. For the first time since she arrived, that smile was full of pride, not fear. He limped toward the balcony as she descended to meet him halfway. "You did it," she whispered. He chuckled. "Told you I was stubborn," but deep inside, he knew it wasn't over yet. Not while power still feared what their bond represented. Not while the galaxy watched from the shadows. But now. They had a chance, and he would fight for that chance, no matter what came next. The skies above the capital burned gold as dawn broke, casting long shadows across the quiet palace walls. Jack sat on a high balcony, his arm wrapped in a healing wrap, bruises fading slowly under alien medicine. His muscles still ached, but he was alive. Victorious and bound by sacred law to a woman from another world. Lyra stood beside him, her eyes scanning the horizon. Today, she looked like royalty, no longer a runaway, but a leader with purpose. Still, the fire in her eyes was soft when she looked at him. "They're scared," she said quietly, "not just of you, but of what this means." Jack raised an eyebrow, sipping the strange blue tea she'd prepared that a human beat one of their champions. She shook her head. "No, that I chose you. That I wasn't forced or controlled. You were once an outsider. Now you're my equal in their law. Below them?" Nobles walked the courtyard with stiff spines and tight expressions. Some looked up, avoiding eye contact, but others nodded, silently acknowledging what had happened. "The elders met in secret last night," Lyra continued. "Some want to break the system that gave me this choice. Others want to follow it?" Jack smiled faintly. "So I'm a revolution now." She gave a small laugh. "You were always a storm, Jack. You just didn't know it." A soft knock echoed at the chamber door. One of Lyra's advisors entered, bowed low, and handed her a glowing message cube. She opened it and read silently, her expression hardening. "What is it?" Jack asked. "They offered us exile," she said bitterly. "Safe passage off-world. Credits, even a ship, if we both just disappear and don't return." Jack leaned back, arms crossed, tempting offer. She looked at him. "Should we take it?" He stared at the morning sky, thinking, "You want to run forever? Or do you want to change this place?" "I want to live," she whispered. "But I want to live with choice, with love, not control." Jack stood, taking her hand. Then, we stay. Later that afternoon, the grand circle gathered. Jack and Lyra stood side by side on the speaking platform. Their hands intertwined, not out of ceremony, but truth. Lyra stepped forward first. Voice steady. "I was once a scared girl, hiding in the ruins of war. A human saved me. Not because he had to, but because he wanted to." She turned to Jack. "Years later, I came back not to test him, but to stand beside him." Jack stepped up next. Scanning the room, "I made a joke once to a child," she remembered. "But what matters isn't the joke hits, what came after." He looked at the faces before him, alien and doubtful. "I didn't plan this. I didn't chase power. I followed a promise, and that promise led me here." Silence filled the chamber, until the High Matron stood and raised her staff. "Then let this union stand as proof," she declared, "that strength is not always born from bloodlines, but from bonds." The crowd murmured, some with doubt, some with agreement, but no. One stepped forward to challenge. Later that evening, Jack and Lyra sat alone again. The stars above them brighter than ever before. She rested her head on his shoulder. Voice soft. "You really did marry me." He chuckled. "Yeah, I guess I did." She smiled. "Was it still a joke?" He kissed the top of her head gently. "Not anymore, far beyond the palace walls." Word of their bond spread, carried on whispers and digital waves, and in hidden corners of the galaxy. Others listened, Dalian girls with hopes, broken systems ready to crack. A human had once made a promise in innocence, and by keeping it, he changed more than one life. He changed a world, and their story was just beginning.